Welcome to The Practical Intuitive, where each Monday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 Eastern, where host Robin Fritz explores mind, body, and spirit for the real world. Because we are all intuitives and healers, and we must all learn to love ourselves and live that love every day. Robin is a trained and certified intuitive and spiritual consultant and hypnotherapist with an international practice based in Seattle, Washington. As the Practical Intuitive, she covers personal and business intuition, animal communication, mediumship, space clearing, past life regression, shamanic insights, energy healing, soul choice. It's all here. Readings, healings, and funny, warm, thought-provoking conversations. It's Robin Fritz, the Practical Intuitive, helping you mastermind body and spirit for the real world. No ifs, ands, buts, or BS ever.
Welcome to the Practical Intuitive Mind, Body, Spirit for the Real World. It's Robin Fritz, and it's, February 18th, 2019. And this is the first live show of my new schedule. I will now be airing my show the first and third Mondays of the month. And today we are going to talk about how intuition can rock your world and what to do about it. So celebrating an anniversary of sorts today, and have lots of things to share with you about our intuitive process. But before we get into the show, I want to remind you that my work is all about helping us understand that we are all intuitives, we are all healers, we can all learn to use these abilities. They are not gifts, they are not divine, they are just part of what it means to be alive on this planet. And you are most welcome to call in and share your thoughts about intuition today, or to get a quick reading from me. And that phone number is 202-570-7057. Or you are welcome to email me a question, a comment, and every once in a while I gather all those up and address them on a show or on Facebook Live on Monday mornings. So as we get started with the show today, I want to start, as I usually do, with a crystal Fallon. That's his name. He's a citrine Lemurian quartz. He's a rare energy healer, a rare power crystal, truth bringer and healer. And you can imagine him as a gold light. But if you take your attention to the top of your head, we're just going to run an energy line. Imagine an energy line running from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet and back up again, clearing out all the cares of the day so that you have this time for yourself to learn about a subject, to think about what your experience is, and to be in community with those who are listening either live or in the archives. So if you take your attention to the top of your head, breathing down your body, starting at your face, your shoulders, your hips, your knees, and your feet, the top of your head to the bottom of your feet. Just feel the cares moving away, getting grounded and balanced in your chair. And now as you're moving up past your knees, your hips, your chest, your shoulders, your face, and the top of your head, you can welcome in that healing light that is from Fallon. Most people see it as a gold light, but sometimes they see a gold man. He is male. And as a side remark, it is my experience in all of my intuitive work that things are either male or female, and it's just how they present themselves to me. And Fallon is clearly male. So as we get into the show today, I want to really talk about how we come to recognize our intuition, how we come to use it, and really how we start to make it make sense to us in our daily lives, because, you know, that's what it's there for. I am today celebrating the 18th anniversary of what I call my Great Awakening, and I hope but you don't need a major earthquake to wake you up to the possibility that intuition is real. And I have covered this topic before, but it was on February 28th, 2001. And I was living with my first Cavalier King Charles Spaniel, who named herself Murphy Brown. And even in the early days of our acquaintance, I was learning to use my intuition. I just didn't know what it was or how to identify it. But that's how she got her name. I sat her down with 3 pages of suggested names and gave her a bone to chew on. She was just a young puppy. And call out names. And this dog would ignore most of them. The name I really wanted to give her was Hildegarda Bingham, named after an ancient mystic who suffered from migraines just like I did. And I thought it would be so cool to yell, "Hildegard, come see me." Well, I yelled out Hildegarda Bingham, and this little puppy stopped chewing her bone. She turned and she gave me the dirtiest look you could ever imagine. And I'm like, okay, all right, see, that is not the right name. Now, that was intuition partly, but it was also a very vivid reaction from a non-human with a human. And I think if you're just open, that's what intuition is about, and that's what today's show is about. If you're open to the world around you, you will learn a whole lot more about it than we do in our normal blind vision of our days, where we just think that everything is about getting up, going to work, coming home, and doing what we need to do to get through the days, which is important, but it isn't the complete story. Murphy, I then moved on to a name and I said Murphy Brown, and the dog stopped and the puppy stopped chewing her bone, looked at me like, oh, you finally got it. And that's how she became Murphy Brown. So, those are you having experiences like that with your animal families? Are you noticing that they're responding to you, talking to them, and are you dismissing it like a lot of us have done in the past? Or are you going, wow, that's interesting? So the that's interesting moment occurred, 2 years later, more than 2 years. I adopted her in 1998 in October, and it was now February 28, 2001, 10 minutes to 11 in the morning here in Seattle. Those were the years where I was really very ill, couldn't work, and creating a relationship with this dog, and she was circling to curl up and take a nap. Now, Cavalier King Charles Spaniels are at the most about 22 pounds. They're laid back companion animals. They don't get excited about anything but cookies and seeing their friends. But she was circling to take a nap, and just as she was getting down to the ground, she leaped up and she started barking. She literally went berserk, and she's barking at me and grabbing my jeans in her teeth, and she's yanking on me, and I'm like, oh my God, what's happened? She's gone nuts. Well, I thought then, after that maybe she really needed to go outside in a very big way, so I was hurrying to get her outside in the hall, and we were in the hallway in our condo building here in Seattle. And this horrible noise started up. I mean, it was so loud, I was covering up my ears because my head was feeling like it was going to explode with the noise. And then I noticed the building vibrating around us, and Murphy was standing there in the stairs in the hallway, and she's splay-legged and she's staring right at me. And I looked at her and I thought, oh my God, a plane is crashing finally on the hillside behind our building here. A lot of planes will clip the point on their way into Boeing Field here in Seattle. I thought finally one got really stupid and got too low, and that was what was happening. The building, that was the noise I heard. The building must be imploding from the explosion of the plane. And I turned and I looked outside and I thought, I only have a very short period of time to get out of here alive. And I turned back and looked at Murphy, and she's standing the whole time, her eyes glued to me. And I realized in that moment that there was no way I could leave her behind. That if we were going to die, we were going to die together. and I ran forward, and I leaned down, and she leaped into my arms, and I turned to stagger out the door. And as I got to the door, I looked out, and there was a telephone pole across the street waving back and forth. And that's when it hit me that, oh no, this was an earthquake. And it was. 6.8 earthquake here in Seattle, shallow, so to speak, and very, very active in our neighborhood. So the building was shaking, things were falling down around us. I was bracing my legs, bent over to protect her with a hand on top of my head to protect myself, and we rode out the earthquake. And then the rest of the day, as we're all recovering from this, and we all checked on the different neighbors in the neighborhood, and I'm back in the house, and I'm looking at my dog, and I'm thinking, she had never behaved like that before. And then it dawned on me, she knew the earthquake was coming before it got here. And I was just dumbfounded. I was like, oh my God, this is a moment where your life can change right here in this moment. You can ignore what happened this morning. I can just ignore that my dog was clearly warning us to try to get us out of the building, which was not the right answer, but she was reacting to what she knew was happening. And in that earthquake, we both acted to save each other's lives. Both of us. She was acting to save mine. I was acting to save hers. Obviously, she couldn't get out the door without me opening it. But we were clearly acting to save each other's lives. And I looked at her and I thought, okay, I can ignore this, or I can be really curious. And curiosity is a defining thing in my life. And I decided there's more going on in the world than I know, and I need to find out what it is. And that's how I started really developing my intuition, which, as I realized, had been alive and well in my childhood, just tamped down by the experiences and the adults around me telling me that that wasn't acceptable. But as I explored my connection to Murphy and watched her reaction in the world over the years, I realized that, intuition is important, but it's only part of how we react to the world. And watching my dog react to other people, I was seeing people noticing really remarkable things that I had not ever noticed before. How she would go up to people on the street and look at them, just like you would be looking at somebody trying to figure them out, and she would look at them, and she would go to person and approach them each in a different way, simply by first looking them in the eye and then reacting to them. And I remember a couple on the beach. They were walking by one day, and she did that. And the guy, they were arm in arm, and the man stopped, and he said to her, he said, "Wait, did you just see that dog do that?" And the woman grabbed him and said, "Keep walking." So there was one person curious, and the other person freaked out and trying to leave us behind on the street. And so watching her over the years, I noticed that, there's just a level of intelligence that we're not thinking of, and a level of interaction in the world that we're not recognizing. So I'm honoring today as the anniversary of, how intuition can rock your world, but it's really bigger than that. My dog helped me realize that there's more going on in the world than we know, and that not learning what's going on in the world is really making our lives less than they could be, and the rest of the world along with it. Because as I started to investigate what was going on and trying to figure it out, I, basically became a researcher. I'm a geeky scientist type at heart, and I did experiments. It's like, okay, the research indicates that some animals are very susceptible to the vibrations that occur in briefly ahead of and during an earthquake. So as the earthquake was rolling towards us from the south, where it occurred south of Seattle, Murphy felt those vibrations before several minutes before the earthquake actually hit. And they also notice things like earthworms coming up and being all over the streets. And all of those are reaction to the energy of the earthquake. But what is it that animals and other beings know that we don't know, and how can we learn those things? And so as I started to research that over the years, I realized that you could do experiments, you could practice connecting with animals or connecting with other beings, and then keep track of what you noticed, and then figure out if you can verify it in some way. And so I did a whole lot of experiments in those years, and I still do. And that's what I teach when I teach people how to use their intuition. Everything is alive. Everything therefore has a purpose. Everything is equal to us. And when you look at the world from the standpoint that humans are not at the top of the food chain, but are equals with all life, I guarantee that your life becomes easier, more fun for sure, and you get ahead more in the world because you're more relaxed, you're more aware of what's going on, and your everyday life is just much more fascinating. You acquire an appreciation of the world, and that's what we really need to be getting right now with all of the talk of all the things that are wrong in the world, the pollution that you notice, and all of the things that are changing, and how can we respond to things. And we start by paying attention to what we know inside of ourselves, and that starts with our intuition. So can we literally let things like intuition rock our world and look beyond our limitations and see how the world really works? And then what happens when we do that? So how do you respond to events that aren't considered normal in a world that's lost its intuitive and healing ways? So we'll talk about it after the break. If you have a question or a comment, 202-570-7057.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hello, I'm Lisa Berry. Join me every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for Light on Living, a chance to see new, hear different, and feel more as I shine the spotlight on all the ways to lighten the load of life's challenges. Light on Living is your link to that new way you're looking for, that new understanding that will enhance your life, and that positive connection that will support your growth. So join me and you'll gain insight and start to see things in a new way that motivates you.
Hi, this is New Age Grammy winner Paul Avgerinos. Thanks for listening to OMTimes Radio, and please support my peaceful healing music with a purchase at iTunes, Amazon, or wherever you shop for fine music. Just put my name into the search engine, Paul Avgerinos. A, V like Victor, G like George, E-R-I-N-O-S. You can also visit me at roundskymusic.com. Thanks for listening, and I'm wishing you the brightest of blessings.
To protect his home and family from disaster, Steve used courage, wisdom, and his camera phone.
That should do it.
Way to go, Steve! By simply taking digital pictures of his family's important documents, Steve can always have them stored safely online, no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Practical Intuitive Mind, Body, spirit for the real world. It's Robin Fritz, and we're talking about how intuition can rock your world and what to do about it. So it's been 18 years since Murphy got us out of the house ahead of a major earthquake. And I made the choice to investigate what's going on in the world, and that allowed me to tap back into my innate intuitive abilities that we all have, and that were wide awake and working when I was a child. I was just if you asked my dad today, he would tell you that I was the strangest child he ever knew, and he would still tell you that, even though he's been dead since 1994 and came back and asked me to help him work with the dead by becoming a medium. So where do we go when people think we're strange or different or the strangest kid they ever knew? And how do we take these innate abilities that we have into the world and make them things that help us every single day, that we pay attention to every single day? And I think that starts with mindset. And I know I have talked about this before. Most of us live in a world that we believe is run by humans, that we're the caretakers of the world and we have to take care of everything, and it depends on us to be healthy. And that comes from culture, it comes from religion, and as we know, through religion, things get messed up because with all good intentions, our religions of the world want people to think they're the apex of civilization. They want them to concentrate on their souls and living well and donating to the church and things like that. But what all life is really trying to do is to get along. And what happens is that we don't get along with all life. And I started to learn this as I branched out from working with Murphy. Of course, I was fascinated by her response to things. And I knew already that she was an unusual dog, but I started paying attention to what was going on around us in the world. And I was also at the time writing what was going to be a comic novel. So I thought it would be very funny to talk about this dog that I met, and we learned how to communicate, and we did this like mystery novel based in Seattle. And then I found out that animal communication was real, and that set me back because I was like, okay, it did happen during the earthquake, but tell me about it. So I started practicing communicating with her. But here's the other thing that happened, and it's the same thing that can happen to you and with you if you're really ready and willing to explore your own intuitive and healing abilities. And I used to laugh and tell people that there were once two branches of the human race. One was intuitive, the other got eaten. But in fact, I think that's mostly true. I think that everyone today here is intuitive, that it's in our DNA, so to speak. And we just haven't been paying attention to it. Again, religious and cultural blinkers, the mindset that if humans are in control, then why would we be even interested in something that was in essence inferior to us? So that's part of the reason why we aren't connecting with the world around us. And then there's the philosophical, even theological premises that, of course, things can't communicate with us because they don't have cells. So you can't actually talk to wind or rain. But the truth of it is, we have become really dumb throughout our history of becoming very intelligent with technology. And somewhere along the line, 18th century, thereabouts, it wasn't just the Industrial Revolution. It was a group of philosophers who were thinking about, how we think and how we grow and how we live in the world. And everybody sort of fell in line behind them. And now we've kind of lost our way of thinking forward to things. And that's kind of what I learned from living with Murphy. I had lived with many animals before, but I looked at them as dogs or chickens or whatever they were, fish, tropical fish. and they became pets, but did they become family members? And not exactly. Even though I loved them, I didn't, think that far through the situation. But what if you started paying attention to what was around you and listening to it in a way that you creates a deeper connection to the world around you and lifts you up from that place where we're taught in our culture to fear, to be afraid, to despair. And that keeps us little. It keeps us contained. And finding a way to love is how we go about creating these deeper connections with the planet around us. The more I experimented with Murphy, the more I realized how big the world really was. And then things started calling. They started dropping in to visit. And I will be talking about them in future shows. What I call the Guardians of Alki. The Alki Beach is the neighborhood that I live in Seattle. And the Guardians were, some people would call them divas. I didn't know what to call them, as I had no experience. I was just, winging it. And getting to know these beings who were asking me about the gardens and can you fix the gardens in this building, and which our gardens in our condominium were run down, and can you do this? And I'd be sitting out on my deck watching the neighborhood, and they'd be commenting on the gardens in the other buildings around here. And it became pretty commonplace for me to just have a conversation with whatever showed up, which is how I learned to talk with wind, weather, how I learned to talk with a volcano or cars or the sidewalk or trees, buildings, homes, businesses, and how I eventually opened a practice and became a professional at it because other people just weren't doing this, but we all can. And I wouldn't say it's a skill that it isn't. So I'll start over here. It is intuition and healing up skills that we all have. Some of us are better at it than others. Just like I would not be a car mechanic because I am just not educated on the level that you need to be to do that work. And that's not my particular talent. This is my particular talent, one of those. And so I just set about exploring things. And I was paying attention to what was going on. So how do you let your intuition present itself to you? How do you get past the, oh, I can't do that, only special people have that, oh, it's a gift, and get past that, oh my God, I can talk to something, or oh my God, I did some hands-on healing work and it worked, and now I'm a healer. Of course you are, because that's your birthright. Coming into a body here, and I'm just talking about our planet, but I happen to know by talking to beings on other planets that it works the same way out there too. So like maybe we need to do a Star Trek show about other planets and everybody using their intuition and healing abilities as birthrights. Just one more skill set to add to the existing skill set. And how do you start looking at your intuition as a natural part of your life, which is what you want? So that you don't have to have a major earthquake to wake you up to what's really going on right under your nose. So one of the ways is to look at it as a basic ability that we all have. And a way to think about that is, have you ever thought about your intuition as being tied to your actual physical senses? For example, intuition comes in many forms. The most basic, seeing, hearing, feeling, and knowing, although there's also taste and smell. And those are like I would call lesser or minor intuitive abilities, only because they tend to concentrate on the four larger ones. But think about it. We have physical senses. We see, okay? We see things. We see our world around us, corresponding to what we see intuitively, clairvoyance. We hear people talking to us, the same as clairaudience, clairhearing, where we can hear other beings talking. We have feelings and emotions, and those tie into our intuition of clairsentience, clairfeeling. Sometimes we know things, we learn things through education, through experience, through reading books, and then just by having things happen. And there's clair-knowing. And then combined with that, clair tasting and clair smelling, and you've got intuition tied to each of our physical senses. If you think about it that way, then you're less worried about being weird, aren't you? And more interested in going, oh my gosh, yeah, look what I've been missing all these years by ignoring my intuition and thinking it's this woo-woo-y thing. Well, the problem is when we all started clicking into our intuition, and I'll just leave it at intuition and not healing it for this purpose here. We all thought it was woo-woo-y because we didn't have any experience of it being anything else. We didn't have any experience of people talking about it around us. We didn't know what it was that we were naturally tapping into. And the problem is, if you don't know what it is and you don't know how your particular intuitive ability works, you're going to make mistakes, because the truth is, not only are you intuitive, but you are using your intuition every single moment of every single day. And if you're not paying attention to it, things can happen that you don't want to happen. Your intuition is there basically to keep you alive, to keep you safe. Why would you not pay attention to that? Why would you say, oh, it's a divine gift? Oh, it's divine and holy. Well, yeah, you can talk to beings that are not in physical bodies, and we can call them angels and spirit guides and so on, but you could already connect with them. It isn't divine. Intuition is just something that's being used. It's practical. You can use it every single day. And if you're not using it and learning how yours works, you're making mistakes, and that could get you killed. So thinking back to years and years ago, and my mom and I, we didn't know the word intuition back then. I don't even know if there were any books written on it. It certainly never occurred to me to look for one. But I remember years and years ago, my first nephew was just born. They were back in Seattle. I was down in Oregon with my parents, and I started feeling really, really uneasy. And my mom was tuned into this too, and she goes, well, focus on it, concentrate on it. Who is it that you're feeling uneasy about? And I go, no, maybe my friends back in Michigan, maybe the kids in Seattle, my nephew and family. And I went, no, it's the baby. It's definitely the baby. There's something wrong with the baby. And so my mom and I believed it, and we called. We tried to get a hold of them. We couldn't. It was way before cell phones. Sure enough, that night the phone rang, and the baby had been rushed to the emergency room with an illness. Okay, and I knew about that as it was happening because my intuition was connected to my nephew, and I knew about it. Now, think about what's going on in your daily life and how things like that pop up for you, and are you paying attention to it or not? And just this morning on Facebook Live, I shared a story that kind of embarrassed to share because I had not been paying that close attention to my own intuition recently. It had been several weeks since I suddenly thought that I wasn't sure if I really trusted my dog's harness. And I really need to trust that harness because he's a 20-pound dog, and we have dogs that run loose. And just a few weeks ago, he got bit by a dog that was loose. Now his owner wasn't even standing there near his. Take a deep breath. Do not cuss at the dog, Robin. The owner was not near his dog. So having my dog's harness break and have him bounce away because he got scared by another dog or something and running, that's terrifying. So I looked at the harness a couple times over the last few weeks and it was fine. But last night as we were getting ready to go out again, I thought, you know what? I just feel really uneasy about his harness. And so I stopped and I sat it down on the counter and I went over it, and sure enough, one end of it that would connect to the end that the leash is attached to was almost completely worn through in less than 2 years of work with one of the top rated harnesses on the market. I was horrified, but I was also mad at myself because I'd had that intuitive hit about 2 weeks ago, off and on since then. And even though I checked his harness, I didn't check closely enough or I would have seen it. Either that or it hadn't started to wear through at that point, and my intuition was warning me that that was about to happen. And that is how intuition works. If you're tuned into it, if you're listening to it, if you're paying attention, if you're saying, yes, I am open to the intuitive hits that affect me, my home, and my animals, and my kids, and my friends, or whatever, then you will be getting hits about them, because that information is out there. It doesn't depend on time. I'm one of those people who believes that it's easier to work with time as past, present, and future, and I don't care about the people who say it's all here present, because we don't live that way. So we're not living in a mythological, scientific, questioning paradigm. We're living in the real world, past, present, and future. So what is it that you're missing every single day? Because the things that pop into your head are things that you dismiss, like I dismissed about Ollie's harness until it was almost too late. And what are you missing on a daily basis? So if you're getting in the car and you're driving to work, say, and you're thinking, well, I don't want to get on the freeway right now. This really happened to me. I was getting ready to drive and get on the freeway, and I was driving up the road, and I thought, no, I really don't want to get on the freeway right now. I need to wait a few minutes. So I pulled into the grocery store, picked up something that I was going to pick up on the way home, got back on the freeway. What was it? The exact route that I was on had just had an accident. If I had not stopped to pick up that thing at the store, I might have been right there when the accident occurred. That's how quickly that whole incident went down. Was I paying attention to my intuition? Yes, but I wasn't completely clear about what it was that I was paying attention to. That means you need to practice. You need to keep a notebook and go, what was an intuitive hit and what was gas? What was an intuitive hit and what was me being worried about something else? How can I tell the difference? You can only tell the difference if you work at it and you practice, because over the last couple hundred years, our natural abilities have been sidelined by science and all of the things that backed up to that. So we're about ready to go into a commercial here, and we will cover more of that in right after the break, and some tips for you to think about in tapping your own intuition. Hang on, we'll be right back.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers, pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
Hi, this is recording artist and composer Yuval Ran, inviting you to a voyage through the chakras, a new double album of guided meditations to transform your life, a sublime musical medicine for nourishing inner peace and reaching to your higher virtues. Get it now at metamindfulnessmusic.com, METTA mindfulnessmusic.com.
Imagine being fired because of who you love. Imagine being denied medical treatment because of who you marry. Imagine being evicted because of who you are. Millions of Americans don't have to imagine this. They have to live it. Because in 31 states, it's legal to discriminate against LGBT people. Get the facts at beyondido.org. Brought to you by the Gill Foundation and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Practical Intuitive Mind, Body, Spirit for the Real World. It's Robin Fritz, and we're talking about how intuition can rock your world and what to do about it. So, first thing to do in learning to tap your intuition is to believe in yourself, right? Put aside all the stuff that it's woo-wooey, put it aside that only a few people can do it, and start looking at it as a practical skill set you need to use to get ahead in life, including staying alive. And one of the things I refer to it as be an intuitive explorer. Yeah, you can still go out and explore the world, and you can do it from your living room recliner, right? And that's the beauty of exploring your intuition. You can practice right there, and you can connect with anything you want to connect with. How do you go about doing that? Well, you be open to the world. Be open to the world and thinking that the world is really bigger than we think it is, and that we need to put aside our preconceptions about how the world works. And boy, I can go on that subject for a long time, but here's two quick stories about that. Number one is we're back to my dog Murphy, born in 1998, died March 8th, 2012. So yes, coming up on another anniversary here. So she was an extraordinary dog, as I've already said. But here's a story about what really shook me. Even though I knew how extraordinary she was, even though I eventually realized who she was, who her soul was, and how I'd known her before in previous lifetimes, including this lifetime. There was a day, especially in her early years that she was with me, I had a terrible migraine problem. I suffered from migraines every 2 days for 12 years. It was very difficult getting that process under control. And when I had a migraine, I'd get really cold and I couldn't warm up. So I was in bed one day, she was lying at the other end of the bed, and I could not get warm. The electric blanket that I used had died, and I was freezing cold. And I was actually turned away from her when I rolled over, and I lifted myself partly up, and I looked at her. And she turned and looked at me like, "What is it?" And I said, "I can't get warm." I don't know why I said that to her. I don't know. She was the only person in the house. And she looked at me and she was like, "What? That isn't a problem." And this is a 20-pound dog. She got up, she walked across the bed, and she started digging at the covers. Just digging, like a dog will do to try to get something uncovered. And I'm staring at her in complete shock, trying to figure out what's going on here. And I realized she's trying to get under the covers. So I pushed the cover back so she could climb over the comforter, pulled the covers back. She laid down next to me, and I laid down, and she stretched her back against my back, and I could feel her stretching her body as big as she could, and pressed her back against my back. I was completely stunned. I pulled the covers over us. I immediately warmed up, fell asleep, and got rid of the migraine. There are things out there, there are beings out there. They can come in a dog body, a tree body, a house body, a business body, a car body, a volcano body, a storm cloud body, a hurricane body. They're all alive. They're all out there waiting for us to acknowledge them as having souls just like we have, of being equal to us, of having consciousness, of having choices to make in the world, jobs to do, jobs that we often have no knowledge of and that are absolutely mind-blowing when we find out about them. Just ask me about my kids and their jobs. I'm like, there's a job like that? Oh my God. How can I help you? But that is just one example. There is a huge complex process that my dog figured out what I needed and responded to it just like a human would. It's like, okay, I have a solution to that. Oh my God, what are we missing by not treating them as equals, by not looking at them as equals, by not relating to them as equals? And then what are we doing by not taking care of them properly? I'll get into another conversation at another time about how angry I get by the whole early spay-neuter situation with our animals and how that is completely based on not only outdated logic, but non-scientific and completely detrimental to our animal families, where we're not using our intuition there to pay attention to. But if you want to use your intuition, you want to get in there and get involved, then make it fun for yourself. I mean, life has to first be fun because there's enough crap going on in our lives during the course of our lives that can weigh us down and just take us out if we don't start having fun. So you want to be an intuitive explorer. That means you want to get out there and explore all of the different things that intuition can teach you and all of the different beings that you can learn from. And believe me, they're out there. They're just waiting for you. And they're kind of depressed because they know that we don't think they're capable of communicating with us. And they are, and they do, and you're just not listening. I wasn't listening for a long time, and sometimes I'm still not listening, but at least I know, and I'm working at it. And I teach people how to do this in workshops, and they spend a whole day and they go, wait, you want me to talk to your car? And I go, yep. And you want me to talk to the wind? Yep. And they, at the end of the day, their mouths are open and they're staring and they're like, oh my God, my life just changed. And it did. And these are remarkable people who are going out in the world and creating a relationship with the planet that we need right now, or we will be irrelevant to the planet. It won't need us anymore. And that would be our loss as well as the planet's loss. So if you're open to meeting the world as it is, go out and explore and experiment. Go for a walk, introduce yourself to a tree. If you don't want to talk out loud, that's fine because they don't that often either. But ask a tree, if it'd like to have a conversation with you. Introduce yourself. Be polite, just the same way as you would if you're meeting another human. Hello, my name is whatever your name is. Would you like to have a conversation? Some beings are shy. Some aren't really at the level of wanting to talk with us. Some, just like us, aren't as developed intuitively and are not interested in that. So move on to the next tree. A lot of beings out there are very willing to talk. They're shy, or they don't know how to respond, or they're so worn out from trying to talk with us that they've given up. So pair up with another human and exchange answers. Whenever I'm in a difficult situation with, especially like a lost animal situation, I have a friend that I partner up with and I say, hey, you want to help me on a lost dog or a lost cat thing? Here's the animal's name. What are you getting? I don't lead them along. I don't give them the wrong information because they need to get their own information, and then we combine it. So you could do that with a friend. Pair up and go out and talk with things. Have fun while you're doing it. You may not get anything right away because you may not hear things as well as I hear things, but you may have a different intuitive ability that really gives you information. So figure out what that is. You may simply know something. That's really hard to work with because, like, wait, how could I possibly know that? Don't ask that question. Experiment with the answer that you get and see if it's true. I was working with oil spills for a while, and by working with the oil spill, I was actually watching it change shape and form while I was conversing with it, and it was trying to tell me what kind of oil it was and how it worked. So there are so many things that you can learn to talk with. You need to develop good energy boundaries. You need to make sure that you're well shielded, because if you go to talk to an oil spill and you're not well shielded, you'll barf your guts up for 6 weeks like I did, because oil, the energy of oil, is not compatible with the energy that's in a human body. It just don't go together. It's the same lesson I teach people when they communicate with my car. Hand them a strawberry, tell them to eat the strawberry, put their hand on the car and see what they get. And they'll get this like wild, like, oh, my car's like, wait, I don't even like strawberries. You will be amazed at the things that you can do that are just latent in you because you can do this. You can learn to communicate with other beings. You can learn what your house needs from you. You can learn what your job is trying to tell you, what the business you're working for is succeeding at or not succeeding at. Be humble, be respectful, be curious, be reverent, because you're basically being an ambassador between different dimensions. That's one of my jobs, and it sounds really important, and it's not. It's just I'm a translator. I just will talk to whatever's out there, and I'll tell humans what they're saying, and then I'll translate it back and forth. And then the really cool thing is that there are people who are interested in talking with these beings, what we call Sasquatch, which is really not what they call themselves, and you'll get yourself smacked down for talking to them like that. But I have partnered people up with those beings and watched in amazement and just complete delight how they created relationships with other beings that aren't humans simply by being open to the experience. You can too. Start with your animals. Start with a bird that you see out on this street. Just explore and have fun and have patience for yourself. Because it's like learning a foreign language and you're not just going to pick it up overnight. Have patience for the non-humans who may be too shy to talk to you or may have had enough experiences to know that we're just going to make fun of them or burn them down or whatever we do to things that we don't understand. And so tell them, hey, I'm not going to try to kill you. I just would like to have a conversation, or I'd like to connect with you. How would you like to do that? Energy boundaries, energy boundaries. Again, nothing is more important than making sure you have a good, strong energy boundary. Your energy body is there. It's born with you. You're probably not paying attention to it because most people don't, because we don't know it's there. It's not a fault that you have. It's simply something you need to recognize and learn to work with. And it'll pop right into place and make itself healthy and whole, literally right there before your eyes. And that will help you keep you balanced and protected and also responsive to the different beings out there that want to connect with us and can and will if we're open to it. A sense of humor is really important. I've had hilarious conversations with non-humans, but the cool thing is they love having conversations with us, and they do love laughing, and laughter is a universal way of connecting. Remember that the world is bigger and more mysterious and more fun than we suspect, and using your intuition is a way to find out about it. And if other people aren't in that space with you, so what? You're a step ahead of them, and you'll find other people to pair up with and explore the world with you. Make sure, again, that you have a very powerful spirit guide. And again, with the energy boundaries, do what you need to do to stay grounded and balanced and keep doing it. Eat right and drink right. This is not the place to do drugs, alcohol. I was going to say coffee, but I can't because I have to have coffee every day. But it's not the place to abuse drugs and alcohol or even use them in you trying to connect with them because they do alter our consciousness. Socialize and have fun and choose love over fear. That's the biggest thing. Choose love over fear. Approach other beings as you would want them to approach you, with respect, with love, with curiosity. Put your fear aside. Nobody's going to try to hurt you. There are beings out there who are not friendly, who are not good, and who are very dangerous. So that's why you have a spirit guide. That's why when you feel them coming at you and you feel like, well, this is not good, then you block it. Hello, be smart. Block it and end for the day and pick up again somewhere else. Learning to use your intuition is a process. It should become normal to you over a period of time. So like last night when I was getting ready to take Ollie out for a walk, I thought, I really am concerned about that halter, that harness, and I need to take a really good look at it. I finally listened, and really took a good look. Using your intuition will keep you alive. It'll keep your family alive. It'll keep you healthy. pay attention to it. It's your birthright. It's okay to experiment. In fact, it's what you need to do. So I want to thank you for joining me today. Again, my show is moving to the first and third Mondays of the month. On March 4th, I'm welcoming in a pre-recorded interview Dr. Judy Morgan, as a veterinarian who's written a book about a holistic cookbook for dogs, the yin and yang of cooking for dogs. So the show is how to feed our dogs so they're healthy dogs. It was a fascinating conversation. It will air on March 4th. On March 18th, we're using intuition to find your home, okay? So here's a series of shows I'm going to do about really being practical on using your intuition. What do you do when you're looking for a home? Where are you looking? Why? Who's involved? What if you're looking to remodel, if you're looking to sell, if you're looking to rent, whatever it is, what is it that we need to be thinking about in looking for our new homes or taking care of the one that we're in? They are created to nurture and protect us, give them that opportunity and connect with them. So as we close out the show today, we were connected with Fallon in the beginning, and we're closing that connection, getting you balanced and grounded back in your body. If you put your hands, cross your hands over your heart, take a deep breath and feel that healthy energy connecting with you, boosting you up, getting you grounded and balanced. If you have questions or comments, email me at my website, robynfritz.com, ROBYNFRITZ.com. Call me up for some of my work. I'm personal and business intuition, animal communication, mediumship, space clearing, past life and between life regression, soul awakenings, soul retrieval, energy healing. Thank you for joining me, and take care.